What's up, people? Welcome back to Shed Show. Thanks for being here. UFC 266. Let's talk about it. Very interesting card. Couple interesting things going on with that card. Anyway, let's talk about the main event. Brian Ortega's taking on the champ, Alexander Volkanovski. This is a pretty intriguing matchup. I've definitely been disappointed by Brian Ortega as a person ever since he slapped that Korean social media celebrity for translating trash talk in the early lead up to that Korean zombie fight. I mean, Ortega claimed that he was like spicing up the trash talk with his translation, but like, okay, like who the fuck cares? But anyway, Brian Ortega does seem to have the champ a little bit annoyed, which is pretty interesting considering how stoic and like nice Volkanovski is. And I would say Ortega's definitely winning the mental games, but that face-off after the press conference kind of made me feel different because it's hard to hear what they're saying, but it really looks like Ortega's like begging him to fight him like in an elevator or something, and Alexander's just like, dude, we're literally fighting like on Saturday. And they would lose all their money. It makes no sense, so I don't know where his mental game is at. Apparently he's really upset because that seems like pure emotions. There's nothing practical about trying to get into a fight before the fight. It makes no sense. But I'd say that it is significant to have Alexander Volkanovski as kind of pissed off as he is. MMA math doesn't really work, but it's still always a factor. And I mean, when you do the math on this one, it's like, okay, Max Holloway beat the piss out of Brian Ortega for 5 rounds in their title fight. And then Volkanovski beat Max for the belt and then beat him again. And also, if you look at the way that Holloway beat Ortega, it had almost everything to do with his pressure and his pace. And that's something that Volkanovski does seemingly even better than Max. But he did change teams after that loss to Holloway. He seems to have made a bunch of adjustments. We have seen him fight recently against Korean Zombie, but I don't think we saw what we're gonna see on Saturday. So if Max Holloway outpaced him and outworked him, obviously that's going to be what he wants to address after. So I'm assuming that a lot of what his focus has been on as far as evolving his style and his skill set, it seems like it would be all things that would be applicable to fighting Alexander Volkanovski, who, you know, is also a pressure fighter. On top of that, Ortega could always wrap him up in something, you know? Ortega's super fucking dangerous with his jiu-jitsu, and it's not just on the ground either, you know? He can wrap you up from almost anywhere, and he's really good at it. Once again, it's hard to do that with someone that is just bouncing around, you know? But there's still, of course, a possibility that Ortega could wrap him up, and that would be probably the most likely path to victory. You know, Volkanovski's saying he's going for the finish and that winning isn't enough, but, you know, winning is enough. He's not going to do anything that could jeopardize the fight, so, yeah. I think he would probably win by decision. So I do want Brian Ortega to win just because I like the way he fights better. You know, he's more raw and he's more creative and he doesn't point fight. He really doesn't point fight. I mean, if you watch Ortega's fights, I don't think outscoring his opponent even is part of his game plan ever, which I really like. So yeah, I do hope that the belt changes hands. I also just think it'd be more interesting for the division. I mean, it looks like we're gonna see Max Holloway fight for the belt next. So it's like, do we want to see the rematch between him and Ortega or another rematch between him and Volkanovski? The Ortega rematch is more exciting because Ortega lost that. So if Ortega got the belt and then had a rematch with, you get it, it would be more exciting. We got Lauren Murphy versus Valentina Shevchenko for the flyweight belt. Let's be honest here, Lauren Murphy is getting thrown into the Dragon's Den. It just is what it is, man. Valentina Shevchenko is just on a whole nother level. I mean, it's almost sad, but everybody's getting paid, so whatever. Let's see, who else is fighting? Heavyweights. We got Rosenstruik versus Curtis Blades. I think that could be a good fight. I mean, hopefully it's not Blades just like, you know, wrestling, holding, and kind of neutering the fight, or neutralizing the fight, yeah. Andrade versus Calvillo. Andrade should be able to maul Calvillo and get the win. I mean, as long as her mentality is intact. And that's no disrespect to Calvillo, of course. I mean, no disrespect to anybody. Yeah. No disrespect at all. No disrespect ever. There's no disrespect in me. And also no disrespect to Lauren Murphy, who is in a much more mismatched match than anyone else on this card. So, speaking of mismatches, another mismatch could be Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler. I wish Nick Diaz would have come back sooner, is all I'm saying. I mean, his suspension was suspended after much suspense quite a while ago, but he did not return, and, you know, regardless of all that, am I excited to see Nick Diaz return? I mean, yeah. I mean, of course I am. So are you. But listen, there are some hard facts to face here. I mean, the MMA math paints a pretty foreboding image. Nick Diaz hasn't fought in over 6 years, and he hasn't won in almost 10 years. And there's a chance that Nick has been training more than we think, like especially over the past year or two. But he definitely hasn't been training as much as Robbie Lawler for the past 6 years. I mean, that's just a fact. But I mean, and I think this is one of the reasons that everybody loves Nick Diaz so much, is like his life is like shrouded in mystery. And not only that, but like no one understands him. So as far as what he could be doing, it's like it could be anything. But I will say that I used to follow him on Snapchat. And granted, that was like a couple years ago, but I do remember I used to see him posting to his story almost on a nightly basis of just him getting fucked up at clubs and bars and stuff. And honestly, I hated to see that. I mean, I'm not like a prude. I'm not like, I want people to have fun, but it's just, yeah. I do feel that I'm willfully deluding myself a little bit into thinking that, you know, this is cool, that Nick Diaz is back, like it's cool, you know? And like, I do think it's cool, but I also think that I might be fooling myself into thinking it's cool. 'Cause, you know, is it cool? I don't know. And excuse me for getting a little theoretical with my MMA math here, but I do kind of think that several years of like hard partying really negates any advantage that Nick might have had in regard to Lawler taking damage over these past 6 years, and Nick, you know, not. Also, the fact that Nick won in their first fight, to me, is a non-factor. I mean, it was 17 years ago. I really think there should be a statute of limitations on rematch. Like, but even if you do imagine this as a rematch, like, I don't think that Nick could possibly win the same way that he won that first fight. You know, he's not going to be able to bait Lawler into a brawl. I don't even think he's going to try, honestly. But even if he does try to goad Lawler into a brawl, it just won't. I don't think it'll work. Lawler is much older now. He's calculated, and that's what makes him scary, you know? A brutal fighter that can keep composure, that makes for a very tough opponent. By the way, I'm not criticizing the matchmaking at all, you know, I'm just expressing some concerns. But I mean, Robbie Lawler is a really good choice, actually, because they're the same age, and Lawler is a big name, but he's lost his last 4 fights. So for somebody coming back from like such a long layoff, it's pretty perfect. It's just insane to fight anyone in the UFC if you haven't fought anywhere for the past 6 years. Like, that's just insane. The roster is just super dangerous, and I mean, that's why we love the UFC, ain't it? That and those ring girls' titties. Woo! We are simple people. I couldn't help but notice that Brett Akamoto, he completely avoided bringing up the recent news that Nick Diaz needed the match at 185 instead of 170 in the interview with Nick. But in the interview with Robbie Lawler,
the weight class changes 5 days before a fight?
So, yeah. Also, Brett sucks. I don't know, look, Brett Akamoto just sucks. I don't need to fucking explain why. He'll ask the same question over and over and over and just like try to force fighters to submit to whatever cheap narrative ESPN has programmed into the Akamoto 5000. Yeah, I'm calling him a robot. Shots fired. So as far as that is concerned, I mean, without any insight, because literally not one journalist, not one media member asked Nick Diaz why he needed the fight to be at 185. We can only speculate, but the most obvious reason would be that he couldn't cut the weight. He somehow knew that he wouldn't be able to make the weight before he even started the actual weight cut. Maybe he was just like, you know what, fuck cutting weight. I don't know, but who knows? I guess he has the star power to force the UFC's hand like that. It definitely insinuates something going wrong in Nick's camp, which if that is the case, say he's experiencing a health condition of some kind, it would be pretty unfortunate because the math is really stacked against him as it is. I mean, I don't want to see Nick or anyone just get destroyed for 25 minutes, you know? Like, I can only enjoy a display of heart if there's also some display of offense, you know? I don't know. I used the word foreboding earlier, and I think that also describes like my feeling about this comeback fight, but I do hope that Nick Diaz wins. But let's talk turkey. Let's talk smart picks. So from the main event right on down the main card, your smart picks are Volkanovski, Shevchenko, Lawler, Blades, Andrade. And interestingly, that is the complete opposite of my list of who I want to win, except in the Shevchenko fight. I mean, obviously underdogs winning is always cool, but Lauren Murphy creeps me out. And yeah, the main card is all we're gonna talk about. Just kidding, real quick, let's see. I don't like Marlon Moraes, I hope he loses. This is kind of a good guy versus bad guy fight, I guess, because apparently Dvalishvili is like the nicest person in the world. Let's see, yeah, wow. I hope Dan Hooker wins. How is he the second to last fight on the prelims? Holy shit. We got Shamil Aburakhimov versus Chris Daukaus. I mean, not only is this evenly matched, but it's heavyweight, so we'll just have to see what happens. Should be a fun fight. Santos should win this one unless she gets like held down. But regardless, gotta give my respect to Roxanne. She's a true veteran. She's been doing it since before it was cool. So we got Udos, the doctor, medic, get it? Even though that's not how you pronounce the last name, I don't think. Versus Jalen the Tarantula Turner. First of all, how the fuck is Jalen 6'3" and he fights at 155? That's so crazy. And you know what else is crazy? Udos is 6'1", which is also very tall for the division. But you know, they don't call Jalen Turner their tarantula because he's tall. The man's got super long limbs as well. He's got a 2-inch height advantage and a 6-inch reach advantage against who I can only assume is the second tallest fighter in this division after him. The man's body is just strange, man. I don't even get it. Like, how does 155 pounds fit on a 6'3" frame with a 6.5-foot wingspan? It's just, yeah, this is a good matchup. I think they're kind of battling for like the up-and-comer status of the lightweight division. I hope Jalen wins, I guess, but honestly, man, I'm just enjoying the fights. Unless like one of my favorite fighters is involved, then I might be emotionally involved. But even then, you know, I'm really just enjoying the fights. And let's see, who else? I'm really not familiar with the rest of the fighters, at least not by name, so yeah. I'm actually considering buying this pay-per-view. I swear, dude, if they charged $40, they would sell twice as many and retain more fans and make more money overall. But I guess I would also add a lot of stress to the streaming service, so I don't know. I'm sure they have experts that break all this stuff down and make sure the UFC is making as much money as possible. I don't know. Anyone else find themselves liking and disliking Dana like off and on a daily basis? Maybe part of me just wants to like him because to not like him just feels so typical, you know? Like, oh, bad bald man, businessman, bad. Bald businessman, bad. But I don't know, lately I just feel like, fuck, man. Like, you turn the pandemic into a cost-cutting money shower and you can't lower the pay-per-view price? Come on, dog. Like, you don't care about poor people, my dog? What's going on, dog? That's a lot for me to spend on an intangible. Sheesh, you greedy fucking bastards. And you know what, Dana? Fucking apologize to Ariel Helwani already. You fucking insecure bully. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. Let's enjoy these fights, and I'll probably see you right after to talk about what happened. But that's all I got for now.